It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of those resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Robin Sherrod. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about, well, why high performing entrepreneurs, I know that's all of you out there, why even in today's world you still feel stuck. But she won't leave you there. She says she has a formula to help you break through. We'll figure out what that is in a little while. What's going on, Dr. Robin? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Che. Thank you so much for sharing your platform with me and welcome all of the listeners.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I certainly appreciate that. And, let's just get addressed, if I can, the elephant in the room, I guess, which is why do successful, and because you did say high performance, I'm going to call them successful business owners, why do they look strong on the outside, but you're saying on the inside, Shay, they may be feeling stuck? Sounds like an oxymoron to me. What's going on?
It does. It does, doesn't it? It does sound like an oxymoron. And I believe in the bluff. I call it BLUF, and many may be familiar with that term. And that is the bottom line up front. And the bottom line up front for high performers or those that are very successful is that success does not automatically protect an entrepreneur nor protect a leader from internal struggle.
Mm.
Statistics show it. Statistics show it. Anxiety, repeated burnout, emotional stress that sometimes the general population doesn't experience, but a high performing entrepreneur or a high performing leader will experience that. And entrepreneurs are taught how to build businesses. That's what they're taught. But rarely are they taught how to carry the emotional weight of building them. And when I say them, I'm speaking about themselves as a leader. And so many leaders become highly functional externally while becoming internally disconnected. We see it, just look at social media, look at celebrities, look at athletes, look at those that are high performers. And eventually, if they don't take care of the internal, it is going to show up in the external. And what I
Mm.
say is that you cannot conquer what you do not confront. And we often compensate for what we cannot articulate.
I like that part. I like what you just said. And that's spot on. So it would lead me to thinking, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get into how famous Dr. Robin is in a minute. I know some of you don't know who she is. Some of you are like, Shay, I hear this, but I don't even know her background. We'll get to that in a moment, okay? Others of you have already Googled her. I get it. But before we get into her background, I'm curious, what are some of the warning signs that these super achievers maybe have that they're burning out that they may not recognize? I mean, you and I were in the back room or green room or behind the scenes, whatever you want to call it, before we got started, and I was doing a number of different things. And it made me think, man, I wonder how someone knows that they're burning out. How do they know that they're at a stress level? Are there any warning signs that we can look for?
That's a great question because, especially with entrepreneurs and leaders, when the revenue grows, when the notoriety grows, when the organization grows, the opportunities grow, the visibility grows, then oftentimes internally, because of all the external success, the internal becomes hidden, it becomes silent. And those things show up in terms of clarity. The clarity begins to decrease. The pressure, the things that was, pretty, it was pressure, but you didn't respond in the way that you're responding now. Emotional exhaustion becomes the norm. You begin to operate in a state of hypervigilance. And these unresolved internal pressures eventually impact your decision making, your creativity, your confidence, your relationships, your relational currency, your leadership capacity, and then your long term vision. So, An entrepreneur, a high performing entrepreneur, and a leader can build a successful business while silently losing themselves in the process. And that's what I call the silent stall. I call it the silent stall. And it's when a leader is still functioning externally, but internally they have stopped progressing. And again, what does it look like? It looks like constant overthinking, delayed decision making, emotional exhaustion, productivity without fulfillment,
Mm,
feeling disconnected from purpose and loss of creativity. And again, because everything is happening externally and it's looking great, money's coming in, life is good. Internally, if we don't address those things, then it will begin to affect in a very negative way. And you begin to the work that I do with the whole leader advantage, I would say, is more so about not sustainability, but being able to have perpetual leadership, not just sustained leadership, but perpetual leadership. So the silent stall is dangerous, again, because from the outside, everything still looks successful.
well, as you were saying that, you mentioned the word leadership almost 4 or 5 times. Y- You've trained leaders. You train them around the world. You train them in South Korea, or South Korea, or North Korea, one of those. South Korea, I think it was. Yeah,
South
you
Korea.
train them in South Korea. You train them around the world. I'm curious, what's the one lesson maybe that you've learned about leadership that has impacted you the most?
What I've learned about leadership that has impacted me the most is that if I don't acknowledge and deal with what's happening with me internally, it's going to show up in the boardroom. It's going to show up in my bedroom. It's going to show up in the conference room. It's going to show up in the break room because I am the common denominator. I am everywhere that I am. And I found that I really had to do the work in me so that, again, I just wasn't sustaining leadership, but I was able to offer more perpetual leadership. I was able to offer lasting leadership. I was able to see things from a very different perspective. And it helped the organization even grow much deeper. It even helped the leaders that I've worked with on multiple levels. I've worked from entry level leaders all the way up to executive leaders, C suite leadership and training and teaching on leadership. And so, again, that's why the whole leader advantage is so important, talking about that strategic strength from the inside out. Being able to have that edge. What is that edge? That edge is being a whole leader, understanding the proclivities of who you are, your essence. Your essence is just not about your achievements and your accomplishments, but it's about, again, who you are. And oftentimes that goes to the back burner. But then again, we see it, it shows itself up, especially in high performers, because eventually you're going to reach a ceiling. You're not going to be able to get through the ceiling. I'm not talking about a glass ceiling. I'm speaking about your interpersonal ceiling.
Interpersonal ceiling. We can unpack that by itself. But before we do that, let's get into who you are. I mean, folks are listening to you right now. Someone's in the kitchen cooking, saying, I like what I'm hearing. It's making sense. She's spot on. But I don't know her. Say, I don't know her backstory. And what led her to being so passionate about what she's doing now. So let's slow down if we can for a moment, and we'll take a moment and give you an opportunity to talk about, who are you? That's the question. And then what's the backstory? That defining moment that led you down this path that you're so passionate about now.
Well, I'm Dr. Robin Sherrod. I'm a transformational leadership strategist. I'm a keynote speaker and executive coach. I'm an award winning author. I am a cancer and paralysis recovery survivor. And I'm the founder of the Whole Leader Advantage. I have two wonderful adult sons who reside in Hawaii and tells me every single day, Mom, we're not leaving. We're staying right here. And I have developed this framework that's designed again to help high performing leaders to develop strategic strength from the inside out. And what makes my work different is that I don't just focus in on leadership performance, I focus on the internal condition of the leader behind the performance. My background combines psychology. My doctorate is in ministry, pastoral, and Christian counseling with a specialization in trauma informed care. I am a retired Army veteran, 22 years in the United States Army, and I am a Department of the Army civilian federal worker, retiree who worked at the Department of the Army level with the Family Advocacy Program in Washington, D.C. So, with my military leadership, my executive training, it allows me to help entrepreneurs identify the internal barriers from dealing with myself first and my own experiences, and then also throughout the years of extensive work and multiple layers of positions. Because again, many leaders have mastered the ability to perform, but they have not mastered the ability to process pressure, to sustain clarity and lead from a place of wholeness. And how did this it was an evolution. It was an evolution of myself, especially when I went through the breast cancer and then operation that went drastically wrong. And it's been about almost 10 years now. But 10 years ago, I was totally paralyzed. I could only move my eyes and my index finger. And that's a whole nother probably segment to discuss. But I'm here today, fully functional. I just have one remnant of it, and that's a little paralysis in my left foot. But that's just something that reminds me that God's grace is sufficient. And that is a reminder that your scars, that your wounds, that the core of who you are, you might go through some tough things. You will go through some tough things, but you can come out on the other side and you can be a whole leader and bring that leader to wherever, space that you may occupy.
Thank you for sharing, by the way. And certainly it is a blessing. And thanks for serving. Thanks for all that you're doing. We appreciate that. So transparent, by the way. And I think it's a good segment to do a little deeper dive because you start talking about one challenge you had in your life. And I was going to get to a segment that would have been a great transition to a segment we call Today is my January 1st. And for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you already know what I'm about to do because we do this almost every night. And that is, you can say those magical words. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you, by the way. For all the new folks who are tuning in, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It really represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny that past is, the past really no longer equals the future. So my question with Dr. Sherrod is going to be, which one of the challenges she's had, which one of the setbacks she had, and how did she bounce back from it? Because up until this point, her life's been perfect. I mean, it couldn't get any better. I mean, she's been on this journey. She's in leadership, teaching people, training people, raised two sons. She said they're grown. She said she had two little boys, and they grown now. They're grown now. So here's the question, two-part question, Dr. Sherrod. I don't put you on the spot, but one question is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you even hear? And number two, what was a setback, a challenge you had on this journey? And the audience wants to know, heck, how did you bounce back from it? What did you do?
Okay, so to answer your first question about my January 1st is I look at my January 1st not just as one day, I look at it as every single day because every single day that I have the opportunity to be on this side of life, it is truly, truly a blessing. And I'm just not saying that as a cliche. I'm saying that as someone who has walked through a very slow walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but because of the grace and mercy of God. And I know that this program is about entrepreneurship and being growing as an entrepreneur, but also you must not forget that we are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. And sometimes we try to segment that and we cannot because it's going to affect other areas of our life. Again, going back to the whole leader advantage. There have been many pivotal points in my life, but one specifically that I just shared very briefly is that I am a breast cancer survivor, thriver, and I thank God for Him allowing me to be on this side of life. But I had an operation that went drastically wrong, and I ended up in a coma for about 15 days. And when I woke up, I was totally paralyzed, could only move my eyes and my index finger. The doctors did not know whether or not I was going to ever walk again. I was on 24-hour dialysis. And during those moments, in your most vulnerable moments, I could not eat on my own. I could not move. I could not do anything. I had to have 24-hour assistance. And in that moment, when I didn't have, the corner office, I didn't have the, picturette window, I wasn't in the boardroom, I wasn't, with the team, I wasn't training, I wasn't doing all those things. At the end of the day, we all have to ask ourselves the question: who am I beyond the accolades? Who am I beyond my performance? Who am I when I have a setback? Who am I when I'm successful? And who am I when I have a setback? And that's what I learned. And as I learned and as I grew in that aspect of my wholeness, this is how the whole leader advantage parts of it were birthed. Talking about again the silent stall, looking at the strong leader paradox and things of that nature. But that was my January 1st. And being able to go from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane, months and months, years of extensive rehabilitation, learning how to talk, learning how to swallow, learning how to process, and learning how to think again. And to have this rebirthing of a sense, I feel that I have a responsibility now to pay it forward and to help other leaders. And their experiences may not be as intense as my experience, but your experience is your experience, wherever that may be. And anyone that's listening to this, you have walked through a slow valley, whether it's a valley of disappointment, whether it's a valley of unmet expectations, whether it's a valley of maybe some life issues. Maybe you've gone through the divorce and you're still trying to run a company, you're trying to build after having a financial disaster. All of those things are who you are. Don't hide them, acknowledge them, confront them, learn from them, and move forward.
Wow, well said, by the way. And I love how you said you were able to move forward in spite of what was going on. And I'm curious, you've been giving out a lot of advice. But one of my favorite questions to ask is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And you teach leadership, okay? You are a student of leadership. You do a whole lot going on. If you had to step back and say, you know what, Shay, I've had a lot of mentors along this journey of life. And here's one idea that was given to me to help shift my life or my business or my leadership skills. What would it be and why?
I think that the thing, one of the, I couldn't even say a nugget of advice because it's like a a bulldozer, if you will. Sometimes when you have those aha moments, when you're with your mentors, or you're just in the presence of those that have done what you would like to do or have been where you would like to go. And I will tell you, it's interesting, and I have taken this with me every place that I've gone in terms of leadership. When you are asked to sit at the table, you sit at the table at the same level of the person that's at the head of the table or at the center of the table, because you have been invited not only to the table, but you've been invited into the room. So as you are invited into the room, your reputation has already preceded you. Your resume has already preceded you. So when you walk in that room, you don't walk small. You walk like you belong there. And you look around the room, especially if you have a seat at the table. Now, if you're around the sidelines, that's a little bit different. We talk about that and the whole leader advantage, give you some more strategic positioning there. But when you are, and this is what was told to me, when you are offered a seat at the table, you go in to that space like you belong there because you do. And that has always stuck with me because sometimes we want to play small because we don't, again, we have to do that internal work so that we can show up and we can show up as our best self. And that is something that has just been with me. And I take it and I share it when I have the opportunity to share it with others because it has really resonated. There's others, but that particular one has truly resonated with me. And I use that not only talking about going into a maybe a corporate or executive level meeting, but whatever I'm doing, whether I'm going into a church setting, a ministry setting, whether I'm going into, just a new avenue, a new setting that I've never been in before, a new space that I've never been in before, I always remember that because if I'm in that room, I'm looking around and saying, hey, do you all know who's in this room? Okay, I'm in this room. And that's what I believe that we as entrepreneurs and leaders need to make sure that we take with us everywhere we go.
I love it. Good example, by a great, great story. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? You seem to be having fun. You seem to smile, laugh a lot. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing?
I enjoy the pour. I call it the pour, pour. I enjoy pouring into others. And I feel that we have a responsibility, especially for those of us who have been in the trenches. We've gone through the rough times. There are many that are listening to this or watching possibly the replay, and you may be in a place where you have lost it all. You may be in a place right now where you don't know what you're going to do. And what's most important is to look back and say, and look at and celebrate how far you have come because you can always pivot. But when you pivot, understand your posture. When you pivot, you must understand your positioning. And when you pivot, you must also understand your power. And all that is found through being a whole leader, not being, a leader that, again, that's looking for the external. But when you're able to look at the internal, then you're able, again, to posture yourself. You can position yourself and you can be in a stance of power for yourself as you move forward. So then you're not making those same mistakes again, because although the circumstances may be different, if you have the same mindset, you are going to have the same outcome. So it's important that we change not only the mindset, but also change the posture and the positioning and the power that we stand in when we show up.
Show up, show in, show out. I love it, by the way. I love it. Spot on, by the way. You know, I'm always curious for folks like yourself that are helping leaders out there, for someone out there that says, hey, I think I have it going on, but she talked about knowing your purpose or knowing what you're destined called to do. Again, this is probably a loaded question, unfair because people are different places, but I'm curious, how does someone know when they're walking in their purpose? How do they know when they're walking in their purpose?
It's a very interesting question that you asked about how do you know that you're walking in your purpose, because the steps that you have already taken is walking you into your purpose. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're walking into your purpose. You got to think about it, Che. I think about now just having this moment with you, and I can just picture you, as a young man, a young child, probably
I
having,
still am, by the way. I still
something
am.
in
You're
your
pitching
hand,
a
a
guy.
comb in your hand, and you're talking, right? And you're talking and you're encouraging people, and you're, saying, hey, you're the best cheerleader, you're the best encourager,
Yeah.
and all those things in your life walked you into your purpose. It has walked you into your now. So, I know that it may not, well, she didn't answer the question. I am really answering the question. The things that you are doing, what you have done prior, stop and reflect on those things. There's a word that's called Selah. And Selah means to pause and think on that. And
Mm.
sometimes we need to have a Selah moment when we pause and think about okay, what is my purpose? Selah. Pause and think about all the things that have led you to where you are right now. And you're going to be able to connect. you're going to start connecting those dots, and you're going to know that you're walking in your purpose. And as you walk into your purpose, I also want to share with you, it requires you to stretch. You cannot stay the same and expect to grow. You must stretch yourself. You must go beyond what you think that you can go, because as you go beyond what you think you can go, guess what? You're going to achieve more. And so it's important to understand that, yes, I'm walking in my purpose, but you just don't want to stay in that point, in that place, because again, you're ever evolving, you're changing, you're upgrading, right? Even with our computer system, sometimes we got to upgrade that system, even though we may not want to. I had to go get me a new iPhone. Didn't want to, but I had to go get me a new iPhone because I needed to upgrade.
I like it. The time it comes to upgrade, and I'm still that young man you're seeing today, by the way. You don't have to picture him. He's right here. I'm still that young guy. Just let you know, everyone out there. But in all seriousness, um, what does success look like for you? What does it feel like for you these days as we come down the home stretch?
Success to me feels like being very comfortable in who I am. That's success. Oftentimes people look at success again from the external, but looking at who you are and how you have evolved, that is, to me, success. Because you're going to see that you're not the same person again that you were before. And you have taken the responsibility again, the accountability to be able to look internally, look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and realize, all of it has worked together for my good. And so success again is who you are, at the core of who you are, and being comfortable with that outside of all the achievements. The achievements are great. Yes, we definitely, we all got a resume, right? But it's really about having that perpetual leadership, that perpetual posture. And that is being able again to have emotional clarity, strategic resilience, excuse me, being able to have long term capacity, not just short term capacity, but long term capacity, remaining effective without losing yourself. I think that's the greatest success that anyone can have. And also, of course, acknowledging their their savior, the one who's helping them to make it all happen.
So important. As we come down the home stretch, this is amazing, by the way, but as we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? I think that's important. And number two, how can folks connect with you? Where should they go? Is there a website? They want to stay in this conversation. They love what they're hearing. What should the audience do now?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. As we spoke about earlier, I talked about the whole leader advantage, which is my framework. And within that framework, we talked about the silent stall, the things that, keeps that entrepreneur, keeps that leader from moving forward. And we talked about the strong leader paradox and what that looks like as well, and sustained and perpetual leadership. And I have a framework which is called the rise framework, and that's what I utilize and I unpack when I do executive trainings. I do, of course, group trainings, leadership development, transformational sessions. And you can stay in contact with me through robinsherrod.com, which is my website. You can also follow me, or connect with me on Instagram, where I give out leadership resets. I talk about leadership from the whole leader advantage. And then also I have a podcast. It's called Soul Healing Moments. It's on all podcasting platforms, and you can connect with me at Dr. Robin Sherrod. I talk about leadership resets there as well. And then I have Monday Night Manna. I am a minister. and I have a virtual Bible study, which is on the second and it's on the fourth Mondays. And you can view it through Facebook or you can view it through YouTube. And then lastly, I do have two books, and they are entitled. One is entitled Soul Food, which is a 52-week spiritual journey to transforming the soul. And then the second book is entitled Overcoming Soul Wounds. And that is Healed and Set Free, a 7-step guide to walking into your wholeness and really digging much deeper from a spirit, soul, and body perspective as it relates to healing and overcoming soul wounds that we all have experienced in life.
Wow. Got so many ways to connect with us. So you have no story, by the way. Go connect with Dr. Sherrod right now. Thank you so much for being on the show. I certainly appreciate it. You're amazing. You're incredible. Can't wait to connect with you and meet you in person one day soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for having me on your show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the listeners and the viewers as well. And it has truly been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much as well. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and you're just going to that next level of success, whatever that looks like for you, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, God bless. Thank you, Dr. Robin, Dr. Sherrod. Dr. Robin Sherrod is her name. Thank you all. We out. Peace. God bless, and keep doing God's work.